The Sentret line has never had a game to call its own. In its debut generation it shared the spotlight with Rattata, and the only other time it was available before the League was Generation 6, where it had so many other early normal types to compete with. So let's show it some attention today. So, Sentret is the early normal type Pokemon of Generation 2. That means we are working with no resistances at all, a 2x weakness to fighting type moves, but we do have an immunity to ghost type moves. And just before we get into the challenge, if you enjoy yourself, please do leave a like. If you've really had a good time, please do consider subscribing. And as always, I've got a little question for you all. What is your favourite early normal type Pokemon? Mine is Rattata, specifically Alolan Rattata. It's actually my favourite Pokemon of all time. But that's enough about me, I want to know more about you. And with the intro all done and dusted, let's now take a look at our Sentret, who's going to be running the challenge. So, as always, we start at level 5, we have 20 HP. Our moves are Tackle and Defense Curl, we're holding a berry. Our attack is 11, our defense is 9, our special attack is 10, our special defense is 11, and our speed is 8. So let's get the graphics up and let the challenge commence. As always, I will show you the very first encounter we have with a wild Pokemon. And the thing we've really got to look out for is our low speed stat. We only have 20 base speed, and that is a very, very slow Pokemon, which means we might not be able to run away from a lot of these wild Pokemon at the beginning of the game. Fortunately for us though, we don't have to worry about that for too long. Sentret evolves at level 15, and Furret has base 90 speed, so we'll go from being one of the slowest Pokemon we can run, to being an incredibly nippy Pokemon instead. And now that we've gotten the Pokédex from Professor Elm, we can have a little chat with our rival. He's got Chikorita this time because Chikorita is the most defensive of the starter Pokemon, and I think that creates the biggest challenge. Especially with a physical attacker like Sentret, it could mean we need a couple of extra hits here and there to knock out his ace Pokemon, but we do get back to the lab and we'll call the rival triple question mark as we always do. We'll get some Pokeballs and we can be on our way into Violet City. Our first destination this time is the Sprout Tower. There are a couple of purposes for doing Sprout Tower early. First of all, we'll need the money to buy some punches in Goldenrod City. And second of all, it's really important that we have Quick Attack for the gym, because Quick Attack is going to let us get that hit off early, even though we have such low speed. So we're now on to Falconer, and he will lead with his Pidgey. We do well over half with the first hit, and the second hit knocks out the Pidgey, and having a priority move really helps against the Pidgeotto. We would have been able to tank his hits anyway, but having priority means we take a little bit less time, and we've defeated Falconer in a time of 9 minutes and 56 seconds. Let's now move on into the Dark Cave. The first thing we do is pick up the Swift TM just to the left of where we are now, and now we'll battle Fire Breather Ray. You might notice our level is 15 and we haven't evolved. I did actually get up to level 15 at Birdkeeper Peter outside the Dark Cave, but I was mashing B too much to get through the text as quickly as possible, but that one level won't have slowed us down at all. So through the other side of the Dark Cave with a Furret in hand, we can go into the Ilex Forest and eventually encounter a wild Pokemon. I think that was my longest time for my first encounter ever here in the Ilex Forest, but we did eventually end up encountering Paris first, and Paris is going to be helping out with Dig, Cut and Flash. I'm trying to stay nearer the door as well as I'm encountering my HM friends now, and as the leaderboard is tightening up, that could mean the difference between, say, a 6th and a 7th place finish. So we'll catch Psyduck, who will help us out with Surf, Strength, Waterfall and Whirlpool, and then we'll have a little chat with Kurt. Nothing of any major significance happened in the Slowpoke well this time, so let's get on to teaching some TMs. We're going to teach Mud Slap, and we're also going to replace Tackle with Swift. Quick Attack is literally just Tackle but with priority, and we have a great enough speed to now utilise moves like Swift instead. And here in the gym we will take on Bugsy. He is a Bug-type leader and will lead with Metapod. We use a Defense Curl just in preparation for the Scyther because Fury Cutter can get quite vicious, and then we knock it out with a couple of Swifts. Kakuna goes down to a very lucky critical hit there. And now we're on to the Scyther. Swift does just under half damage, so it's going to be a 3 shots. Fury Cutter misses, and one last Swift knocks it out. That was a very, very easy Bugsy fight. Let's see if we can keep the luck going as we go on to rival number 2. He will lead with a Ghastly, and that is why we taught Mud Slap. We Mud Slap the Ghastly and Hypnosis misses, and we knock it out in just 2 hits. That's the big danger of this battle gone. We almost knock out Zubat in 1 hit, but it survives on 1 HP, so that's just another hit, and we're on 68 HP as the Bayleaf comes out. Bayleaf uses Reflect, which is a little bit annoying because it means we take an extra turn, but we have easily defeated Triple Question Mark and we can proceed into the Ilex Forest. We'll pick up Cut and we will also pick up Headbutt at the same time, and we will now also teach Headbutt in place of Quick Attack. Now that we have an above average base speed, we don't really need to worry about priority moves, so we can go for pure strength instead. So we'll enter into the underground and pick up the coin case. We'll also give our Furret a haircut. And I have absolutely no complaints at all about the haircut this time. Fairy Luck's delighted. And that means we'll be able to grab return on our first sweep through of Goldenrod City, instead of having to come back for it later when we do the rocket segment. So we'll pick up Abra from the game corner, and now it's time to pick up one of our favourite HM friends. It's Kenya time. Kenya's just going to be used for Fly, but Kenya is one of the most important Pokemon in all of these runs. We'll pick up TM28, which is Dig for Paris. We'll have a little chat with Floria, and now we'll do some retail therapy. We'll pick up TM27, which is of course Return, and we'll pick up one of each of the punching moves. Even though Fairy's like me and only has diddy little arms, we can still pack a great punch with them. 45 in special attack is not to be sniffed at, and that will come in handy a little bit later on. But now it's Whitney time. She leads with Clefairy, who uses Metronome and thinks it's Halloween because it uses Spiderweb on us. We get double slap for that as we headbutt the Clefairy twice, and now we're on to Miltank. We do decent damage with a headbutt. Miltank's rollout doesn't build up anywhere near enough to knock us out, and we defeat Whitney very, very easily. We get the plain badge in a time of 26 minutes and 32 seconds, and we can now move on to Ecruteak City. We'll grab Surf from the front of the Kimono Girls Dance Hall, and now we'll move on to the Lake of Rage. It's another one of those runs where it's going to be fortuitous for us to get hidden power very, very early. So we'll get the TM, and in this instance it's a Dark type move because Furret has perfect DVs. And just before we take on the rival, we'll pick up the Mince Berry. This is next to the Moo Moo Farm and it will help out in the Morty battle. But before we do Morty, we have to take care of rival number 3. He's leading with Haunter, and Haunter swears at us to take himself down into the red, and we knock it out in just 2 Mud Slaps. Magnemite is easy with Mud Slap, it's just a single shot to knock it out, and we're on to Zubat. Headbutt's now strong enough to knock out Zubat in 1, and the final Pokemon is Bayleaf. Bayleaf flinches, doesn't get a chance to attack us, and we've defeated rival number 3. In celebration of defeating the rival, we will teach Hidden Power in place of Mud Slap, and we will also equip the Mince Berry. And the Mince Berry will wake us up in case that pesky Gengar sends us to sleep. So he will lead with a Ghastly, and let's see just how good our special attack is against these ghost types. 1 shot on the Ghastly, that's a great start, and it's also a 1 shot on the Haunter, even better. That brings us onto the Gengar, and it's looking like a 2 shots. The Mince Berry comes in handy there because it wakes us up, and we only have 1 more Haunter left to go. It's a level 23 Haunter that goes down straight away. In terms of a Morty battle with a normal type Pokemon, that could not have gone better. Time of 34 minutes and 59 seconds for defeating Morty, and we are currently 7 minutes 40 behind Girafarig. So in Olivine City we will pick up Strength, and now we'll ascend to the top of the lighthouse where Jasmine wants some drugs. So we'll grab the rare candy on the way out. I don't think that's the kind of drug she wants. We'll get the secret potion from the man on Cyanwood City, and while we're here we might as well take on Chuck. Chuck is a fighting type leader, which is bad for us, and he leads with Primeape. So we'll headbutt the Primeape and knock it out in 1 shot, and out comes Poliwrath. We deal exactly half damage on the first turn, Dynamic Punch misses, we knock it out on the second turn, and that was a perfect Chuck battle. So we shall grab the Storm Badge, we'll pick up Fly, and now we'll move on to the Lake of Rage. We don't need to grab the Rare Candy and Hidden Power because we did that earlier, so it's straight onto the red Gyarados. Gyarados flinches, we knock it out in 2 shots, grow to level 36, we'll grab the red scale, and here comes Birdkeeper Lance. Lance is, as always, going to force us to stick our nose in other people's business, and while we were doing it, we learnt Fire Punch. That helps us take out some Magnemite in the underground. We'll get Whirlpool from Lance, and we can move on into Price's gym. Price took some time off in the Mr. Mime video, but he is back now, and he is ready for a battle. He'll send out Seal, which will get knocked out in 1 shot. Here comes Dugong. It's going to be a 2 shot on the Dugong, but Aurora Beam does nothing at all. It barely tickled our Furret, and the final Pokemon is Piloswine. Fire Punch deals well over half, so we'll finish off with a Headbutt, and that is Price, all done and dusted, time of 46 minutes and 14 seconds. Next up on the chopping block is Jasmine. Jasmine is a pesky Steel-type leader, but Jasmine will not be expecting Furret to be wearing boxing gloves made of fire. punching the Magnemite to take it down, punching the other Magnemite to take it down, and here comes the Steelix. Steelix has much lower special defense than physical defense. She uses a Hyper Potion because we tuck it under half. This is going to be an incredibly trivial battle. We have knocked out the Steelix, and that means we are now only 1 second behind Girafarig. Furret has done a lot of catching up. That was badge number 7 though, and after badge 7 we do some sweeping up of things we missed in our previous journeys around Johto. In this instance it's just a pair of rare candies. And now we can go back to Goldenrod City and prepare to take on rival number 4. We're going to replace a couple of moves. The first move that's saying goodbye is Swift. We're going to replace that with Shadow Ball, a very strong physical ghost type move. And we're also going to replace Headbutt with Return. At this point in the game, Return will deal a lot more damage than Headbutt, so it's definitely worth it. Let's test out our new moves on rival number 4. We start off with a Return and one-shots the Golbat. Out comes Magnemites. We've still got our boxing gloves on, so Fire Punch takes care of that. Here comes Haunter. We Shadow Ball the Haunter to take it down in one easy shot. Up next is Sneasel, which we decide to use Return against and grow to level 43. And the final Pokemon is Meganium. I'm getting feelings of deja vu from a previous run as we get poisoned, but that isn't too terrible, because we have defeated him without taking any damage at all. So up to the top of the radio tower we go, we rescue the Director, and we will get the pink bow off Mary. That's going to give us a lovely 10% boost to our normal type moves, and it does stack with the badge boost we get from Whitney's badge, and of course Stab. In the Ice Path we picked up the Nevermelt Ice. That's ostensibly the pink bow for Ice type moves, and now we're into Blackthorn Gym. We're going to take on Cool Trainer Lola, who has a Dratini and a Dragonair, and unfortunately for me, after learning Amnesia here in place of Fire Punch, I misclicked and used Defense Curl, and that got our first paralysis of the run. So we lost a little bit of time at this battle, but nothing too major. So after that little warm-up, let's now take on Claire. She's got 3 of those pesky Dragonair, so let's see just how well we do. Return one-shots the first one. I think this is going to be an easy intro to the Claire battle. Critical hit on the second one just to make sure it's perfectly fainted, and we knock out the third one. Here we go onto the Kingdra. We use Return, we get a critical hit, and we knock it out. A 4-shot Claire battle, that is nothing to be sniffed at all. So we get the Rising Badge in a time of 1 hour, 2 minutes and 1 second. This is one of the fastest paces we have ever been on. We'll pick up the rare candy just east of New Bark Town, and now it's time to take on the final rival battle. It's Rival 5 time, and this time he will lead with a Sneasel. We use Return against the Sneasel to knock it out in one shot, and out comes Golbat. And why change a strategy of a lifetime if it's working? Magneton could prove to be a little bit peskier though, because we don't have anything to hit for decent damage, but Thunder Wave misses, and even if it did hit, we had the Paralyzed Cure Berry. That brings us on to the Haunter, and we've got Shadow Ball for that. Up next is Kadabra. We use another Shadow Ball because that's super effective, and the final Pokemon is Meganium. We use Return against it to take it into the red. He uses Reflect, and that means it's a very, very easy victory. We are into the league in a time of just over 1 hour and 7 minutes. So as always, the first thing we're going to do in the Pokemon League is heal up, whether we need to or not. That's going to restore all our power points, and it's time to say thank you to our HM friends. We say thank you to Kenya, to Abra, to Psyduck, and to Parrish. You've all been a great help in the Johto region. Get some lovely rest while we buy our 4 full restores, and we'll take a little look at our Furret stats. So at level 53 we have 185 HP. Our moves are Return, Defense Curl, Shadow Ball and Amnesia. We're holding the Paralyzed Cure Berry, but I will swap that to the Pink Bow. We have 121 in attack, 107 in defense, 86 in special attack, 97 in special defense, and 134 in speed. And now it is time to take on Will, a Psychic type specialist who will lead with Xatu. And we have Shadow Ball with Xatu's name on it. So we throw a Shadow Ball at Xatu, we've got another one for Jinx, and we take out Jinx in one shot. Up next is Executor. We throw yet another ball at Executor to take it down into the red. It Leech Seeds us as we knock it out with another Shadow Ball. We keep chucking our balls at Slowbro and we take it down deep into the yellow. Leech Seed brings it back up to almost half, but that's not enough to keep it from being knocked out. And the final Pokemon is Xatu again. We knock that one out just like we did the first, and that is well all done and dusted. Let's now move on to Koga as we have a 90-second lead over Girafarig. Koga leads with Ariados, and we use Return to knock it out in one, and up next is Venomoth. Venomoth also goes down to a single Return, and the next Pokemon is the pesky Fortress. We really don't have the answer for Fortress. In hindsight, I should have replaced Shadow Ball with Fire Punch, but it doesn't matter, even the explosion doesn't knock us out and we move on to Muck. We knock out the Muck in a couple of hits and the final Pokemon is Crobat. Deep into the red we go with our first shot. Crobat double teams and then gets healed. We hit again with Return to take it deep into the red once more. We hit through the evasion buff and we have defeated Koga. Time of 1 hour, 9 minutes and 15 seconds. Let's move on to Bruno. Bruno could be tricky, you know, because he's a fighting type specialist and he will lead with Hitmontop. We're going to take advantage of Hitmontop's AI here and starts using Defense Curl, because Hitmontop will always go for Dig on its first turns, and that means we get 4 Defense Curls for the price of 2. After we've done that, we knock out both Hitmontop and Hitmonlee with great ease. We get hit by a Muck Punch from Hitmonchan, but it does barely anything at all, and now here comes the pesky Machamp. Machamp uses Cross Chop, which is an increased critical hit move, however it doesn't get a critical hit and we easily tank it, and we are on to Onix. Once again, we don't really have an answer for Onix, so we're just going to have to brute force. Sandstorm slowed us down a little bit, but not by a significant amount, and we've defeated Bruno in a time of 1 hour, 10 minutes and 9 seconds. Karen is the final Elite Four member that we have to take on, and she leads with that pesky Umbreon, which always likes to use Sand Attack, but in this instance it missed. That felt great, it means we're on full accuracy for the rest of the battle. A single return takes care of the Vileplume, so we're not getting stun spored this time. We have a Shadow Ball with Gengar's name on it, so we chuck it at it and knock it out in 1. Here comes Murkrow. We use Return against Murkrow to knock it out in 1 easy shot, and the final Pokemon is Houndoom. We use Return to knock out Houndoom in 1 shot, and we have defeated Karen in a time of 1 hour, 11 minutes and 3 seconds. Let's now teach Rollout in place of Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball has served its purpose, and now of course it's time to take on the liar with the flyers himself. It's Lance, the so-called champion of the Johto region. He will lead with Gyarados, and we're going to use that to our advantage because Gyarados almost always uses Rain Dance on the first turn. So we get a Defense Curl in and then we start to roll. Unfortunately we do miss a rollout, and that means our rollout isn't quite as built up as I want it to be. However, it still proves to be more than strong enough to knock out these pesky Dragonites, so we're not getting paralysed on this run. Rollout's also strong enough to take out the Aerodactyl, and here comes Charizard. Rollout's at max strength, it's 4 times strong, and we get a critical hit, so that Charizard stood no chance. We've got to rebuild for the Dragonite as it locks itself into Outrage. That means he can't heal. We grow to level 58 and we have defeated Lance in a time of 1 hour, 12 minutes and 8 seconds. This is a fantastic pace from little Furret here, and don't go away because Kanto is next. And we're back where it all began, outside our house in Newbark Town, and just before we resume, I want to say that the only Pokemon who has run Johto quicker than that for me so far is Miltank. And we unfortunately all know how Miltank ended. She struggled with blue and she struggled with red. So let me know, do you think Furret has what it takes to knock Girafarig off the top spot? We'll find out in the next 10 minutes or so, but right now we have to pick up some stuff from Professor Elm. We have the SS tickets and we also have the Master Ball. The SS ticket, of course, is going to let us get to Kanto, and the Master Ball is going to let us pick up our final friend for the run. It's going to be the Snorlax outside of Diglett's Cave. We've got a couple of bits to pick up in Johto before we make our way to Kanto, though. We're going to pick up the rare candy in the Mount Mortar, and we're also going to pick up the rare candy in the Whirl Islands. We couldn't get either of those too easily on our first run through, so it's just a quick sweep up. And of course, the first thing we do in Kanto is the last thing we do in Johto, and that is, of course, picking up another rare candy. This time it's from the chairman of the Pokemon fan club, and because we don't have to pick up the Psychic TM on this run, we can go straight away into the Celadon condominiums. This man with the green hair and the glasses is going to give us TM03. That contains Curse, and in this instance it will slow our speed but increase our attack and defense. So with all that out of the way, let's go straight to Erica. Erica is our first Cantonian leader, and she will lead with a Tangela. Tangela goes down in 1 shot and she brings out Jumpluff. Again, we're just going to use Return against the Jumpluff because we have a very nice attack stat and we are doing great damage on all of these Pokemon. The stab boost, along with the pink bow and the badge boost, makes normal type moves for normal Pokemon incredibly strong, especially when you have a move like Return. And in fact, we've defeated Erica so quickly while I was waffling on, we're already on to Misty. Misty leads with Golduck, and Golduck goes down just the same way as all of Erica's Pokemon. Quagsire comes out, and Quagsire doesn't have an answer for us either. That brings us on to Lapras. Lapras is incredibly bulky and does withstand a return, however it's just a simple 2-shot, and the final Pokemon is Starmie. Starmie isn't as bulky as Lapras and goes down, and we have defeated Misty in a time of 1 hour, 21 minutes and 32 seconds. We are pulling ahead of Girafarig. Time for Sabrina. Sabrina is a Psychic-type leader. She will lead with that pesky Espeon. No sand attack for us this time though, as we knock it out in one, and here comes Mr. Mime. Mr. Mime gives a lot of people the creeps, and I've found out that a lot of people don't like it. And honestly, I'm in the same boat. It is very, very creepy. So we won't linger on Sabrina any longer than we have to. We'll get the Marsh Badge and we will leave. Straight onto Surge it is. Surge is an electric-type leader who will lead with a Raichu. I've put the Paralysed Cure Berry on once more, just because of that pesky, pesky Magneton. With our current learn set, Steel types are a little bit of an Achilles heel for poor Furret, but it doesn't matter because Zap Cannon misses, and that means we can take out Magneton in 2 easy returns. Up next is another Electrode, and that goes down as easily as the first one. The final Pokemon is Electabuzz. Return Short Circuit Electabuzz, and we have defeated Surge in a time of 1 hour, 24 minutes and 10 seconds. We are really racing ahead of Girafarig at the moment. Let's now catch our final friend of the run. It is Snorlax. Snorlax isn't going to be used for any field moves, but we are going to steal its leftovers. So we use the Master Ball on it to make it a guaranteed catch, and then we will nick those leftovers as quickly as we possibly can. Leftovers are going to be very handy because it'll mean we can heal up while we battle. And that will save some healing, and it'll save some potioning a little bit later on. So with the leftovers in one hand, we can now put a boxing glove on the other hand. This time it's an icy boxing glove, and this is going to make the battle with Brock an awful lot easier. So we wave goodbye to Defense Curl, and we'll take on Brock. He is of course a rock-type specialist, but 3/5 of his team are weak to ice-type moves, so I'm hoping that will be enough to see us through. So we started off by giving the Graveler a quick punch in the chops. Rhyhorn gets exactly the same treatment, and out comes Omastar. Now I thought I was being clever here by using Rollout and building it up against the Omastar, because I assumed that he would send Kabutops out next, but he sends out Onix. So we're locked into Rollout and a Sandstorm begins. He heals up his Onix, but fortunately for us, Rollout is now strong enough to knock out that Onix. That just leaves Kabutops, but we are losing a little bit of time because of this Sandstorm. Kabutops doesn't have good special attacks, so Surf does barely anything at all, and it's just a 2-shot on the Kabutops, and we have defeated Brock in a time of 1 hour, 26 minutes and 13 seconds. Let's now move on to Cinnabar Island, where we have a little chat with Blue. I have to say, this is the one part of Kanto that really gets me the wrong way. I loved Cinnabar Island. It was my favourite place in all of Kanto, and seeing it destroyed like this makes me sad every single time. So we'll go and console ourselves with Blaine here. He is a Fire-type specialist, and he leads with Magcargo. Magcargo is a Pokemon I have got such a soft spot for after running with one. But unfortunately, having a soft spot doesn't mean that Magcargo is any stronger, and we're on to the Bumhead Fireduck. A single return knocks it out, we grow to level 64, and here comes Rapidash. Rapidash goes down to a single return as well, and we have defeated Blaine in a very fast time. We've gained another second. It's 1 hour, 27 minutes and 39 seconds. Janina's the next gym leader we are taking care of, and she is going to be incredibly easy. Janine really should have had a boost to her levels. These levels in the 30s are all going to be one-shots with almost every single Pokemon we run. I genuinely think we'd have to have something like a Shuckle or a Chansey to not knock out all of her Pokemon in a single hit. So it's just 5 shots against all of her Pokemon to get the Soul Badge. And with just one more gym leader left to go, we're going to swap our moves again. This time we are going to replace Ice Punch with Curse. This battle here was the undoing of Miltank, so I want to be as prepared as possible. I think Return, Curse, Rollout and Amnesia is the best learn set we could have at the moment. So we start off with a Curse, and Pidgeot does the same, and we then start to roll. The Pidgeot starts to roll as well, which must have been a very peculiar sight for Blue, seeing his Pidgeot spinning all over the place, and we knock it out in 3 hits. We then move on to the Alakazam, which uses Reflect, that throws a massive spanner in the works, because that means we're not going to be able to OHKO the Rhydon. Rhydon uses Sandstorm, which I think has become my least favourite move in the game, even above Thunder Wave, and then he just leaves. He can't be bothered facing the consequences, so we go up against the Gyarados. We knock out the Gyarados in 3 rollouts, and it's back onto the Rhydon we go, and Rollout does next to nothing. We eventually get rid of that pesky Rhydon on the next turn, and we are on to Executor. The Sandstorm subsides and we take care of Executor in 1 shot, and now we're on to Arcanine. We have to build out the rollout again, and that could have been a mistake. We would have been better off using Return. Critical hit Flamethrower knocks us out, and we've taken our first reset of the run. And that means that still the only Pokemon to get to red without a single reset is Teddiursa, and that was all the way back in my second video. I do wonder if any other Pokemon will ever be able to manage to do that. We'll find out, I suppose, in due course, because I am going to be doing pretty much all of the Pokédex. But anyway, back to this battle we go, and we are on to Rhydon. This time Rhydon uses Fury Attack instead, and that helps us knock it out in just 2 shots, and we're on to the Gyarados. And in hindsight, I really should have been using Return. When the pressure is on, when that clock is ticking and you're on a great pace, you sort of hyperfixate on using one strategy, and in this instance I think it slowed us down by a couple of minutes. If I would have used Return, I think we'd have got through this battle an awful lot quicker. Fortunately for us though, Egg Bomb missed off the Executor rollout hits, and we knock out Arcanine. We have defeated Blue in a time of 1 hour, 32 minutes and 2 seconds. We lost a couple of minutes there compared to Giraffrig's pace, but we are still on a very, very fast pace. Even if we don't get first, this is such a respectable time for Furret, seeing as it's a Route 1 normal type Pokemon. We'll pick up our final rare candy, and there's nothing left to do apart from teleports to Mount Silver and go into the cave. Red is waiting for us. It's the final challenge of the run. So let's see how we do at our current level with our current learn set. We're going to start using Amnesia against the Pikachu because of course most of Red's Pokemon are special attackers, and unfortunately we do get paralysed. This is the risk we run by trying to set up against the Pikachu. We get Charmed on this turn, but we manage to get all our Amnesia set up, and then we start cursing. We don't get paralysed as we do 3 curses in total, and now it's time to start rolling out. First rollout takes Pikachu into the green, and the second rollout is strong enough to knock it out entirely. Let's move on to the Espeon. Espeon uses Reflect, which of course increases physical defense, and a critical hit from Psychic knocks us out. So we'll try again, and we're not really going to change our strategy. We got incredibly unlucky with a critical hit against the Espeon there. And they say that lightning doesn't strike twice, so let's see if that adage is true. We cursed just the once because we didn't get charmed, and then it's time to roll. We miss our rollout though, which is incredibly frustrating, so it takes an extra turn against the Pikachu. And here we are on the Espeon once more. Espeon gets another critical hit and knocks us out. After a few more failed attempts where I kept getting paralysed by the Pikachu, I had a bit of an epiphany. Why don't I set up against the Espeon instead? We can more than easily survive a few Psychics, especially when we're boosting our special defense, and we can then get to cursing without having to worry about being charmed either. We'll swear at the Espeon a couple of times, and then our Fairy will start to roll. We do hardly anything on the first turn because Reflect is up. We get a lucky critical hit on the second turn, Reflect fades, and on the third turn we knock it out. We're only on 35 HP as the Snorlax comes out though. That grows to 49 with the leftovers, and we one-shot the Snorlax. That felt good after so many struggles with Snorlax recently. Venusaur outspeeds but only takes in Sunlight, so that means we are on to the Charizard. We have to build up rollout once more, but Charizard is 4 times weak to rollout. Flamethrower takes us deep into the red, but we knock out the Charizard with just 23 HP remaining. Blastoise is the final Pokemon. He traps us in a Vortex, which is going to negate our leftovers. He then surfs and leaves us on 1 HP, but rollout hits, and that means we have defeated Red in a time of 1 hour, 37 minutes and 6 seconds. We have a new champion in Furret. And would you have believed that Furret would be the Pokemon to knock Giraffrig off top spot? Giraffrig moves down to second, Miltank in third, and on the other end of the leaderboard, Ampharos is now on the second page, and Magcargo is in 24th. And with that, we are done. So I'm going to say thank you all so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. If you have, please do leave a like down below. If you've got anything at all to say, leave it in the comments. I try to respond to all of them. I have a Patreon at patreon.com/TrainerSquidgy, and if you really enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care, everyone.